It's February 17th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with U.S.-Russia talks over the Ukraine war. U.S. and Russian officials are set to meet in Saudi Arabia this week to officially begin talks on ending the nearly three-year-long crisis. In fact, U.S. President Donald Trump hinted that a meetup with Russian President Vladimir Putin could come very soon. A foreign ministerial meeting of South Korea and the U.S., as well as a trilateral meeting with Japan, took place for the first time under the second Trump administration. With the three sides' a firm commitment to achieving North Korea's complete denuclearization act. Two additional hearings of President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial will take place this week, with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo in attendance as a witness. Yoon's criminal trial proceedings also begin on Thursday. U.S. officials are set to meet Russian counterparts in Saudi Arabia this week, bringing an end to the Ukraine crisis. Ukrainian President said Kyiv had not invited to talks, but Washington stressed that both Ukraine and Europe would have a part to play. Our Yoon starts us off.
Washington's Middle East envoy told Fox News on Sunday that he and White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz would go to Saudi Arabia for talks aimed at ending nearly 3 years of war between Russia and Ukraine.
I am going tonight. I'll be traveling there with the National Security Advisor, and we'll be having meetings at the direction of the president, and hopefully we'll make some really good progress with regard to Russia-Ukraine.
However, speaking to NBC News on the same day, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy said Kyiv had not been invited to the talks in Saudi Arabia, adding that Ukraine would never accept any deals made without them. During a previous interview last week, Zelenskyy also remarked that no one, including President Trump, should trust Russian President Vladimir Putin. Regarding Ukraine's absence from the talks, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told CBS News on Sunday that if real negotiations happen, Ukraine must be involved, and that Europe must also be involved. He also emphasized that the next few days would determine if Putin was serious about achieving peace. Amid European concern that the U.S. is moving ahead on peace talks with Russia without consultation, French President Emmanuel Macron will hold an informal emergency meeting on Monday on security for Ukraine and Europe. According to officials, the meeting will include Germany, Britain, Italy, Poland, Spain, the Netherlands, and Denmark, as well as the NATO Secretary General and the presidents of the European Council and the European Commission. Also on Sunday, U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters that he's working hard to bring peace between Russia and Ukraine and that he believes the leaders of both countries want to stop fighting. To a question asking about Ukraine's involvement in talks, he answered that Zelenskyy would be involved in the negotiations. Trump also hinted that a meeting with Russia's president in Saudi Arabia could happen soon, but no date has been set.
No time set, but it could be very soon.
Meanwhile, Russia attacked Ukraine with 143 drones on Saturday overnight, injuring at least one person. According to Ukraine's prime minister, the attack damaged a thermal power plant in Mykolaiv in southern Ukraine. Zelenskyy said the attack left around 100,000 people without heat. He took to social media to condemn the attack, calling it a sign that Russians are waging war against our people and against life itself in Ukraine. Yoon, Arirang News.
Top diplomats of South Korea, the U.S. and Japan met over the weekend and agreed to tighten their ties in addressing security issues, including bringing about the complete denuclearization of North Korea. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji has more.
South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol and his American and Japanese counterparts Marco Rubio and Takeshi Iwaya met for the first time since U.S. President Donald Trump returned to the White House earlier this year and delivered a strong message that appears to be aimed at China. In a joint statement, they expressed their support for Taiwan's meaningful participation in appropriate international organizations. That detail, which could upset China, has never been included in a joint statement by the three countries before. This appears to reflect the Trump administration's hardline stance towards China, as Beijing has been making efforts to block Taiwan from joining the United Nations and many other global organizations. At a session of the Munich Security Conference, Foreign Minister Cho said it's only natural for South Korea to keep relations with both the U.S. and China in harmony to best serve its national interests, but added that this is easier said than done.
We can continue to improve our relations with Beijing while continue to upgrading our strong alliance with Washington. But particularly when it comes to the security issues, there's a limit to what we can do to accommodate demands from Beijing.
The three countries also made it clear in the joint statement that they reaffirmed their commitment to the complete denuclearization of North Korea. This gave reassurance to Seoul, particularly after Trump's comments referring to the North as a nuclear power raised concerns in South Korea, as they led to speculation that Washington could be shifting away from its focus on denuclearizing North Korea. And before the trilateral talks, Cho and Rubio held a separate meeting for about 40 minutes, where they agreed to closely cooperate on deterring North Korean threats. The two sides also reaffirmed that their alliance will continue to remain strong throughout Trump's second term in office, with Rubio reiterating his confidence in South Korea's acting president. Speaking to reporters in Munich, Cho said he expects the two countries to hold more high-level meetings, and that the government plans to consult with Washington on the issue of tariffs on steel and aluminum as soon as possible, to minimize possible damage to Korean companies. 배은지, Arirang News.
The Constitutional Court plans to hold 2 additional hearings this week for President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial. But it's unclear whether the last session on Thursday will be rescheduled, as his team requested. The court set the 10th hearing date for Thursday at 2 p.m., where 3 witnesses will be questioned, starting with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo. Now, Han previously said that the president had not held a proper cabinet meeting before declaring martial law. Former Deputy Director of the National Intelligence Service Hong Jang-won was summoned last week by the National Assembly side, but will return to be questioned by Yoon's legal team. Hong claims there was a list of figures the president wanted to arrest under martial law. And National Police Agency Commissioner General Cho Ji-ho will be questioned by both sides after missing 2 witness sessions for health reasons. Yoon's lawyers have filed a petition to change the date of the 10th hearing, arguing for more time, as the president is also preparing for criminal trial proceedings, which begin on Thursday. Over the weekend, Israel and Hamas successfully completed their latest hostage and prisoner exchange with 2 weeks left in the first phase of their ceasefire deal. It is a relief, but can the deal survive through the upcoming phases? Let's turn to Professor Hassan Gan. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Nice. Thanks for having me again. Thank you.
So Hamas let go of 3 Israeli hostages in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. The question is, why do you think Hamas decided to free the hostages after threatening a pause to the deal?
The thing is, the Hamas decision to release these 3 Israeli hostages, including 1 American Israeli national, after previously threatening to halt such releases, appears to be influenced by several factors. First and most of all is the international pressure, particularly from mediators like Egypt and Qatar, who played the very significant role in facilitating this kind of negotiations. Also, Hamas is likely aimed to maintain its position within the Palestinian community by securing the release of these 369 Israeli Palestinian prisoners. Besides, also Hamas is very keen to uphold this current ceasefire agreement, which is very crucial for both humanitarian reasons and also strategic positioning. You see, Hamas is using these releases for propaganda to show off their power of negotiation.
So mounting pressure from the international community and also Hamas really wanting to keep the deal as a strategic
of course Yeah, it's for their interest to keep this deal going on.
Then on top of that, would you say U.S. President Donald Trump's, warning / threat to Hamas also played a role in successful ceasefire swap over the weekend?
Yeah, of course. President Trump's ultimatum to Hamas demanding the release of Israeli hostages by the end of the deadline on Saturday served as a substantial pressure on the group itself. His warning that severe consequences, he said the gates of hell will open to Hamas, would ensue if the deadline is breached. Also, this stands coupled with Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu's similar threats that create environment where Hamas found it strategically very beneficial to keep the deal going on.
Well, things were rocky up until Saturday when we all thought the deal or the swap possibly couldn't not happen. Now, do you think the first phase of the deal, we have 2 weeks left, which is set to end by the end of the month, will end in peace for Gaza?
It's a very, very good question. But, this initial phase of Gaza ceasefire has led to just a temporary halt in fighting and facilitating humanitarian deliveries and the aid trucks going into Gaza. However, achieving last peace in Gaza requires addressing deeper issues that this first phase cannot resolve. Recent developments underscore fragility of this current ceasefire. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited Israel, and he endorsed Israel's objective to eradicate Hamas, casts very big doubt on the ceasefire durability. Rubio and Netanyahu also have emphasized that peace is unattainable as long as Hamas remains a threat. This stance suggests a potential resumption of fighting. Also, the ceasefire agreement includes provision and release of hostages and prisoners. However, ongoing violence, such as Israeli airstrikes resulting in casualties among Hamas personnel, continues to put pressure and restraint on this truth.
Well, hopefully the first phase of the deal will end in relief and peace. But we have to talk about the upcoming phase 2 of the ceasefire deal. Why is there no progress on phase 2 of the ceasefire deal? I mean, when will the plan for the phase 2 be finalized?
There's a very important thing you have to know, that there are many factors leading to that. First thing you have to know is both Israel and Hamas fundamentally have different goals,
Of course,
leading to significant lack of trust. So Israel Prime Minister of Israel aims to dismantle Hamas militarily, and Hamas seeks to end Israel's military actions and lifting blockade on the Gaza Strip. These diversions complicate negotiations, as each side questions the other side's commitment to honoring any agreement. Second, Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu faces considerable pressure from his government, his own country, from the hardliners who advocate for continued military operations. This makes it challenging for him to commit to any further withdrawal or ceasefire agreements, as it might show as a sign of weakness from his side. So there is no exact timeline to finalizing the second phase of ceasefire plan. That the situation remains fluid and heavily influenced by political maneuvering and the ability of negotiators to facilitate these negotiations.
Indeed, and things in Gaza have become more complex with, Trump's ambitions to take over the area and relocate Palestinians. The ambitions are growing bigger day by day. Do you think this can potentially break and terminate the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas?
Among Trump's recent outlandish claims to other countries' territories, such as Canada, Panama, Gulf of Mexico, and Greenland, this is the strangest one. President Trump's proposal to own Gaza Strip and relocate its residents of 2 million people to neighboring countries introduced significant tension to that it could collapse the ceasefire. The plan, which is envisioned in transforming Gaza into Riviera of the Middle East, has been met with condemnation from Europe and from neighboring countries, regional countries like Egypt and Jordan, and they have firmly rejected the idea of relocating or forced displacement of Israelis to any other country. Hamas has also denounced the proposal, viewing it as a very direct threat to Palestinian sovereignty. This perception could prompt Hamas to abandon this ceasefire, leading to resurgence of hostilities. Also, in the Israeli sides, although this proposal might initially appear as a rhetorical stance, it's not real, but its implication is tangible and could lead to collapse of current ceasefire agreement, because hardliners in Israel just hold into it and they think it's doable.
Right. Again, we are only on phase 1 of the ceasefire deal. Professor Gan Hassan, thank you so much for connecting with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
U.S. President Donald Trump continues to push for his America First trade agenda, now with a warning that he will treat countries with value-added tax systems the same as those with tariffs, raising fears of a hit to South Korea. Lee Seung-jae reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump said Saturday that Washington will treat countries with a value-added tax system the same as those with tariffs in order to help calculate reciprocal duties on other countries. The comment raises concerns for South Korea, which, unlike the U.S., collects value-added tax. Typically, companies in countries with a VAT system, including South Korea, receive a VAT refund when exporting to the U.S., and only have to pay a relatively low sales tax. However, U.S. companies exporting to foreign countries have to pay a high VAT rate that they do not pay in the U.S. And for that reason, Trump has criticized VAT as being an unfair trade barrier for the U.S. Since South Korea's VAT rate is 10%, higher than the average U.S. sales tax of 6.6% as of 2023, it's possible that Trump may also consider it an unfair tariff, fueling speculation that Trump will impose a 10% reciprocal tariff on all South Korean imports in April. Amid concerns over Trump's trade policies, Deputy Minister for Trade Park Jong-won at the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy will visit the United States on Monday. During the 5-day visit, Park will meet with high-ranking officials from the U.S. Department of Commerce and the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative to discuss trade and other pending issues. This will be the first official visit to Washington by a high-ranking trade official since President Trump took office. Park is expected to hear the specifics of the trade policies under the Trump administration and convey Seoul's position on the matter. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
A former victim of Japan's forced sexual slavery during World War II passed away on Sunday. According to the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family, Gil Won-ok passed away at the age of 97. Gil was also an activist who worked to raise awareness of Japan's atrocities both domestically and internationally. She was only 13 years old when she was taken from her home in Pyongyang and was forced to work as a sex slave. Her death now reduces the number of surviving victims in South Korea to just 7. 240 victims are registered with the government, and 233 have passed away. On the culture front, the art of blending genres is redefining the music scene. K-pop is now moving to a whole new level by going classic. Our Song Yujin shows us what happens when K-pop meets classical music.
This 2007 hit by SM Entertainment's girl group Girls' Generation, Into the New World, has jumped into a new world, the world of classical music. Since 2020, SM Entertainment and the Seoul Philharmonic Orchestra have teamed up with 8 classical renditions of songs by artists such as SHINee, Red Velvet, and aespa. Now they've brought the world's first ever K-pop orchestra live concert to Seoul.
It's the first of a kind in that the entire setlist performed by the orchestra is K-pop songs. So we're very proud of that.
Performing over a dozen K-pop songs is a new experience for everyone, starting with arranging the music. The key was to keep the original while adding originality.
When arranging, we sample works by famous classical music composers. We looked for pieces that would blend well with the original K-pop track to stay true to the original and highlight the classical elements.
Then it was practice, practice, and more practice until every note hit the mark.
We watched the original performance videos and compared them to the sheet music. Our goal was to bring the lyrics, rhythms, melodies, and emotional depth of the K-pop tracks into our orchestral performance.
Finding this new groove wasn't easy. The orchestra's associate concertmaster compares it to learning a new language.
Because we're so used to playing all the, normal classics, Beethoven, Mahler, Brahms, and then now, all these K-pop songs. So it's been a little bit, kind of like challenging in a way.
But in the end, they discovered the beauty of crossing genres and unlocking new potential.
We're taking K-pop's flashy performance and transforming it into something you can appreciate with just your ears. We're not just playing melodies. We're reimagining K-pop as 21st century orchestral music. Even if you're not familiar with the original songs, you'll find something to enjoy.
Two genres worlds apart have come together to strike a chord, creating something groundbreaking, making classics trendy, and turning trends into timeless classics. 송유진, Arirang News.
Now we take a look at the stories from around the world with our Choi Ji-hee. Good morning, Ji-hee.
Good morning, Tommy.
So Ji-hee, let's start with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's refusal of the Trump administration's critical minerals deal.
Sure. So the proposal suggesting that the United States take a 50% stake in Ukraine's vast critical minerals was declined by President Zelensky, citing a lack of security provisions. On Saturday, Zelensky said the draft minerals deal with Washington did not include any security guarantees and emphasized that any such agreement must include robust security assurances to protect Ukraine's sovereignty and deter further aggression from Russia. The U.S. proposal was presented by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent during his visit to Kyiv on February 12th and aims to secure half of Ukraine's rare earth mineral rights as compensation for past military and financial aid, as well as payment for future assistance. Trump has previously said he wanted $500 billion worth of critical minerals from Ukraine to reduce dependence on China for rare earth materials. Moving to China, and a meeting between Chinese Premier Li Qiang and Cook Islands Prime Minister Mark Brown on Friday aimed at strengthening bilateral relations and cooperation between the two nations. The Cook Islands said Saturday that it signed a comprehensive strategic partnership deal with China during the discussions in Harbin. Premier Li emphasized China's commitment to deepening political mutual trust with the Cook Islands. He proposed aligning the Belt and Road Initiative with the Cook Islands development strategies to enhance collaboration in various sectors, including maritime infrastructure, agriculture, fisheries, and cultural exchanges. Prime Minister Brown acknowledged the nearly three-decade-long friendship between the two states and reaffirmed the Cook Islands' adherence to the One China policy, while assuring that relations with China do not impinge on long-standing ties with New Zealand. Now to Austria, where a 14-year-old boy was killed and 5 people were injured in a stabbing attack in the city of Villach on Saturday. The attacker, a 23-year-old Syrian national, was apprehended at the scene. Authorities have identified the incident as an Islamist attack and said the suspect had sworn allegiance to the Islamic State. A local food delivery driver's swift intervention by using his vehicle to impede the attacker likely prevented further casualties. The attack follows a series of similar incidents in Europe and has intensified discussions on immigration and security policies within the country. Finally, in the United States, Marvel Studios' latest release, Captain America: Brave New World, has delivered box office success during its opening weekend with the highest-ranking domestic debut of the year. The film garnered $88.5 million domestically over the 3-day period, with projections estimating a total of $100 million by the end of the 4-day President's Day holiday on Monday. Internationally, it accumulated an additional $92.4 million. This performance also marks the 4th best President's Day holiday opening on record.
After a mild but dusty weekend, a cold snap seems to be settling back into much of Korea. The good news, though, air quality has greatly improved thanks to that stronger winds. But temperatures are taking a dip and it's going to get chilly over the week. Meanwhile, the East Coast is under dry weather alerts. Jeju and the West Coast are under a strong wind advisory. Take extra precautions against wildfires. It will be windy in most regions, adding an extra chill. Afternoon highs could be 3 to 10 degrees lower than Sunday. Seoul gets up to 3 degrees, Daegu, Jeju at 7 degrees. We should have plenty of sunshine, making for a bright and beautiful late winter. However, Korea's easternmost islands, Ulleungdo and Dokdo, will receive heavy snow of up to 20 centimeters through Wednesday. The chillier than normal trend continues this week and into the weekend under sunny skies, while the dry air stays. So please bundle up before heading out this week.
That is all we have for this morning. New Day at Arirang will be back tomorrow at the same time, 10 a.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.